So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us on a Sunday. My name is Henrika and I'm so happy that you guys are here joining us for PM Personal Branding, and really proud of you guys for being proactive in learning more and advancing your career and general knowledge about product management. So to start off, we wanted to briefly introduce the two clubs that are collaborating today to bring you this event. First off, we'll start with APMC, which stands for Associate Product Managers Club.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Soundarya, the speaker from APMC. I will be your co-moderator with Henrika for today's awesome event. This is a collaboration between Product Buds and APMC. So let's get to know a little bit more about APMC. We are a PM exclusive community with a lot of opportunities that we are building from ground up to develop everything related to product. We're trying to accelerate our product management careers while also providing opportunities for effective networking, branding opportunities, and all that good stuff. And you might ask, why is APMC different from all the other product management clubs out there? That's because the power lies in our community. We are a very closely knit community, and we focus mostly and most importantly on building intimate relationships professionally and personally, of course, blossoming friendships among PMs all around the world. We currently have a bunch of unique product offerings coming up. We have our PM Skills Lab that's up and running. This is a unique offering where, with minimum time commitment, we as PMs would constantly like to learn. So as PMs, this PM Skills Lab would be a way to celebrate and expand on our knowledge. We also are launching with this event our personal branding program, which is to help create, define, refine, and basically provide an avenue and platform to, again, expand on our personal brand. More into the details through this talk that we'll be having. And launching soon, we'll also be having mentorship programs, because we all know how helpful our senior PMs have been to get us to where we are today. So that's our brief intro. So show us some love by following our LinkedIn page, join us on our social media platforms by filling out our membership form, or just reach out to me and the rest of the club. Just hit us up and let us know how we can improve in any way.
Sounds good. Thank you for that, Sundaraya. Can everyone hear me okay? I see that my internet connection is unstable, but can you hear me?
Yeah, you're
okay,
good.
Cool. So welcome everyone. I am speaking on behalf of Product Buds, which is a community, an online product community of aspiring product managers. And our mission is to help budding product managers sprout, grow, and flourish. Product Buds is an initiative that myself and my co-founders, Grace, David, Mila, started only about a month and a bit ago. And since launching, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth. We've seen our community grow from 0 to more than 1,000 members worldwide. And we're just so happy with how everyone has been engaging with our Slack community and has been supporting our events. So with Product Buds, our hope is to help aspiring product managers gain PM knowledge, skills, and also advance their PM portfolio. And we do this through a couple of initiatives. First, we have our summer project jam that we launched that we are running for the whole summer to essentially immerse our members with the design thinking process and the product development cycle. And we're hoping that by the end of it, participants come out with a really great work sample that they can showcase to recruiters during recruitment season. And this could help them become a more competitive candidate. We also do mock interviews and resume review initiatives to help aspiring product managers in the job search process. Additionally, we hold engaging discussions through book clubs and product case studies, which we will launch very soon. And we also hold workshops and speaker events like this to help help our members gain knowledge from leading PMs from leading companies. So that's a brief introduction of Product Buds, and we'll go directly with the agenda today. So for today's agenda, we will be asking our panel members to answer some pre-selected questions, and then we'll head into Slido for taking questions from the audience. Brief housekeeping reminders, please mute yourself, everyone, but feel free to open your video, and all questions, please direct them through Slido instead of the chat. In Slido, you'll be able to add questions, but also vote for your favorite questions so they get answered. And one thing that we also encourage, yes, so you can have the Slido link. I believe Darsh will post it shortly, but you can also access it directly through slido.com, and the code is #PM branding. Yeah. And then we also encourage our members to post on LinkedIn, take notes in what you learn from our panel members, and just track your key takeaways, post it on LinkedIn, tag the speakers, tag Product Buds, tag us, so we can like and engage with your content, and you'll be able to actually amplify your personal brand right after this event. So right now, I'll pass it on to Sundaraya to get our speakers to introduce themselves.
Sure. Thank you, Henrika. I think Arunima has some technical issues to join the call. So in the meantime, I can introduce her to all of you. In her own words, hi everyone, I'm Arunima. She's an APM at Salesforce currently, and she's worked with 5 different companies as a PM intern before. And she started the APMC community with us all because in her experience as a young product management aspirant, and then as an intern, and then as a young professional, she found out that there have been some gaps in the PM career progression opportunities because it's such a diverse and atypical career path to take. You have to either have the financial capacity to buy resources, or just expected to naturally have the skills like networking or building your personal brand. This, I assume, is also relatable to many of us, which is initially hard for us to learn alone, since we needed accessible learning resources, and we haven't had a community that learns and grows with us together. And this I can personally say is exactly why APMC exists, and that's exactly why she has founded the APMC, and it does what it does, which is to accelerate the PM careers of all our members. So we're happy to have Arunima on the call. We'll welcome her when she is able to get in.
Clement, do you want to give a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Again, thanks everyone for joining us on the call today. Again, realize it's a Sunday, there's a lot of other things you could be doing. So really appreciate you being here and committing to accelerating your career. A little bit about myself. Full-time, I am a product manager at Blend, which is a fintech startup in San Francisco. Outside of that, I'm the co-founder of Product Manager HQ. So we have our own Slack community, we have a newsletter, we have a blog. I recently published a book called Breaking into Product Management. You can find that on Amazon. I am going to be publishing another book in the next couple of weeks-ish. So keep an eye out for that. You can also see that on Amazon. I'm really here to help all of you in terms of your careers and in terms of your personal brand. So feel free to reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to read our materials on Product Manager HQ. We're really here to, serve that same mission that, both, Sundaria and Arunima and the rest of the Product Buds leadership team have said, which is, how do we create accessible materials for you so that you can actually go and grow, right? So I think we're all here serving the same mission, just in somewhat different ways. So again, just really excited to be here. Thank you so much for taking the time. I realize it's not easy. Thanks for writing through, and hopefully we'll be able to share some insights with you.
Thank you so much, Clement. big fan of your writing, and yeah, I don't know how you do everything that you're doing, but we appreciate your heart in giving back to the aspiring product management community. So thank you for all that you do. I believe we have Arunima on the call now. Arunima, can you say hi? I believe I just admitted you.
Sorry, I said hi. How is everybody? I had a problem signing in today, so I'm sorry for my late presence, but I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, so Sundarai was able to give a brief introduction of you. Do you want to give a quick, 30-second introduction before we jump into the questions?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Arunima. I'm an associate product manager at Salesforce, and I've worked with 5 different companies as a PM intern before. So a huge, long journey of being a PM aspirant, then an intern, and then now a young professional. All the problems that you faced, I probably would understand. So I'm originally from Meerut, India. During my undergrad, I went to a university in Delhi. It was a tier 2 or 3 university. And I had this idea of helping schizophrenic patients using artificial intelligence. And believe it or not, that project idea, literally the thing that Product Buds is doing, that project idea and creating a project plan, submitting it to Stanford, and to my utmost surprise, going there and working on that project really started my understanding of what a product manager is. Like a small town girl from Meerut didn't even know that something like this exists. But that gave me exposure to understand about that area, and then work through and become the entrepreneur, like the product manager that I wanted to become. So that's how I embarked on this journey. I recently graduated from Columbia University and gave a TEDx talk on my story of persistence amidst adversities that I've faced in life. Yeah, that's me. And I'm glad Saundarya already talked a little bit about how we started APMC. That's one more job title that Clement would talk more about. Like he calls it side job, and he's really good at advices, maintaining the your side jobs too. So by the way, definitely get on a call with him if you need any advice there. He's super awesome there. So that's me.
Thank you, Arunima. So without further ado, let's get into our pre-selected questions. So my first questions for the panel is, what have your career journeys or experiences been so far? Why did you choose to pursue a career in product management? So if you could kickstart that question, Clement, and then followed by Arunima.
Yeah, for sure. So first off, one of the things that I'm going to admit is that every single one of you on this call right now has an advantage over me back then. And why is that? It's because I actually didn't know that product management existed, and I didn't know that I wanted to be a product manager. And so the sheer fact that all of you are here right now puts you leagues and leagues ahead of where I was. So in terms of some background context, I was at UC Berkeley, and basically I was double majoring in business and biology. Not because it actually turns into any type of specific career that I had in mind, but just because I just really enjoyed, studying those 2 subjects. And, as a quick heads up, my journey into product management has been really rambling, but that doesn't mean that it's not successful, right? And I think one of the things to keep in mind is that even though it may take time to move towards a role that you're really passionate about and that you can do a lot of good in, that doesn't make your experiences any less valuable, right? And so again, I want to share my story of how I very accidentally became a PM, even though I wasn't planning on it, because I think that that helps to alleviate some of the fear of, oh my gosh, I need to be a PM right now, right? So again, I was a double major, business and biology out of college. I had no idea what I was doing. And so what I basically decided was, okay, well, if I don't know what I'm doing, maybe other people will know what to make me do. So I'm going to become a management consultant, right? And so basically as a management consultant, you get to see some of the hardest problems that employers have across many different employers. And so I figured, maybe I'll be able to learn about different industries, something that I might be passionate about, a company that I really resonate with, and, I'll be able to jump over there. And, that did mostly work. Like I did get to work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies and go tackle some really difficult problems, which is really exciting. But the thing that actually wound up happening is, rather than going down this management consulting track down into strategy, what happened was I accidentally fell into user research. And like this itself is also a little bit of a rambling journey, where basically the product that I was using as a management consultant to help my clients understand how do I run real world how do I run real world experiments was built off of this product that our team had actually shipped, right? So we had PhD statisticians at our company, applied predictive technologies, where we built this really powerful analytics engine that basically enables, our clients, Fortune 500 companies, to be able to, run these experiments and analyze them. But the problem was the people who were using it were marketing analysts, right? Operations analysts. They're not PhD statisticians. And so they said, I have no idea what this product means, right? So they would keep me on the phone all day, 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day. I was basically serving as customer support, just talking them through like, no, like that's not what the error means. And like, no, that's not how you set up the analysis. And so I figured, look, like if we can design a product that is way more intuitive, we're going to be able to do a lot more as consultants and enable our customers to succeed a lot more. And so that's when I accidentally became a user researcher. Basically, I documented all of my calls with my clients to understand, okay, well, why are you running into this problem? Like, what did you expect when you got to this screen, right? Like, what was it that you were trying to do? Where did we fail you? How can I help? And so I basically wound up filing something like 300 JIRA tickets with my product team. They were very annoyed with me, by the way. I still have the record number of JIRA tickets filed at that company, even though I haven't worked there in the last six years. And so basically, that's how I kind of fell into the user research side of product. From there, and again, like I still haven't become a product manager yet, right? Then I was actually hired by a different company to go lead some of the user research in terms of finding a new customer segment to go tackle. And so, that's what I did, did a lot of one-on-one interviews, did a lot of quantitative analytics in terms of survey results. And we basically found that there was this segment of customers that was really compelling to go after. And so basically from there, I decided to pivot away from user research because I said, I don't want to just give you this analysis and let it sit on your bookshelves. I want you to do something with it, right? So I moved back into strategy and I said, look, we have this customer, we have this business model that's gonna work. We should create a business within a business, right? So I fought my exec team for many, many months, finally convinced them to go ship the thing. And I said, great, we're gonna go do this new business within a business. It's gonna be risky, but it's gonna be great. We're gonna be able to yield a lot of revenue. Existing product manager, can you go build new products for our new business? And he said, sorry, but no, I'm busy building products for the existing business. I don't have time. And so my exec team basically had to make a decision. Okay, we can either go hire a PM from outside of our company and train them, help them understand who the customer is, understand who all of our internal stakeholders are, what our product is, or they could take this user researcher and just turn him into an associate product manager for a lot cheaper, for a lot faster, because I already know the customer, the product, the people. And so that's what they did. They said, Clement, you're going to be an associate product manager. Good luck. And so that's basically how I accidentally fell into product. And so I think a couple of things to keep in mind from my journey is that I didn't explicitly say at any point in time, I want to be in product. Rather, what I said was, I want to be able to do the most good for my company, and it doesn't matter what my job description is, right? So it didn't matter that I was a consultant. Like as a consultant, I leaned into user research, right? Then it didn't matter that I was a user researcher. I leaned into the strategy part. And it didn't matter that I was a strategist. I leaned into product management. And that is how you can keep expanding your current role into something that is a lot richer over time. And so, one of the things to keep in mind, and I say this not to scare anyone, is it can be very difficult to find kind of a traditional product management job right out of college. Like that can be very hard, but that shouldn't be discouraging because there are so many other ways to break in, especially when you take control of your career by understanding how do I deliver value to my business? And then by delivering that value, they're going to give you back value in return and let you kind of shape the career that you want to have. So realize that was a little bit rambling, but just again, wanted to let people know that you don't have to be a product manager as soon as you graduate. You don't even have to know that you want to be a product manager right now. Like you can still become, a relatively successful product manager, so long as you're always thinking about what is the problem and how can I best solve that problem, regardless of my role or my responsibility. So yeah, with that, I'll hand it over to Arunima.
Yeah, so exactly what Clement said, honestly, but my story would be a little more towards when I was a student, rambling into product management and getting my first PM job right out of college. Just exactly what Clement said, solving problems, right? That should be the first goal behind anybody willing to be a product manager. And that's how I stumbled upon being a product manager, and I practiced being a product manager even when I had no job and I was just a student. So my story was, as I think I touched a little bit upon it. I was from a tier 2 university, but I had this idea, this compelling idea that kept me awake at nights, and I really, really just wanted to solve this problem for schizophrenic patients. By the way, TLDR, it didn't happen. Like the product is not alive. So, but that project is very close to me because even though I quote unquote failed at the project, that the product didn't get funding, I'll tell you a little bit more about it. I learned so much that it still is my story where how I got into product management. And that's exactly what Clement said. As a student also, your main focus should be, is there a problem around you when you look around with people, you, your family, your friends, or people in product buds community or APMC community that have this compelling problem that you want to solve? I had it. I wanted to help schizophrenic patients, and I discovered through research, self-taught myself what AI and user research is. And I researched and I interviewed doctors, I interviewed patients, I did everything I could to create this solid project plan and like this impact document as a sophomore in undergrad. And like I had zero resources, and so I said, okay, in order to build this project I need resources. What do? I need to apply for resources. I went crazy on applying. As a not so popular university student, I said there's this program at Stanford, I applied at other programs too, that intakes like an exchange student from an international university. And I'm not even kidding. My friends used to, and my parents used to say, this is a crazy girl. Like, this is just waste of her time. But I wasted that time. I put that time in, reaching out and doing all the things that I needed to do, and I got through. I didn't even have in the application form, you have this drop down on schools, no school name, my school name was not there. Anyway, ultimately, I think I won't take a lot of time, but that's how my product management journey started. Where I went there, I learned entrepreneurship on campus. I failed, as I said, at the end of the program, I studied machine learning as a CS student on campus on my F1 visa, first F1 visa. I was homeless for a month too. That's another story. But I was in an entrepreneurial program that taught me the intersection of engineering skills. I needed AI skills, user experience, because as Clement says, if you don't know the problem you're solving, you're not researching users, you're not a product manager. And then the business side of things, right? Like we were supposed to pitch in front of the investors towards the end of the program. So all that business side of this would create that much revenue, all that shit. So I through that entire program, I got introduced to this something called product management that I could pursue as my career. And that's how my journey started. And ever since then, I did like I did everything possible to keep learning new skills, keep understanding the problem discovery that Steve Blank calls it, problem discovery, the journey of finding that problem and that discovery component of it. And then I guess since 2015, how many years have it been? Since 2015, when I went to Stanford, today I am, and I got my first PM job. Yay.
Thank you so much, Arunima and Clement. Wow, you guys spoke with such passion, and I think everybody in this meeting can understand the resilience, the grit that you pursued your career with. And I think Henrika also popped up in the chat saying you don't need to be a PM to act like one, and I guess that's exactly how you came about the journey. So thank you for your answers. Just in the interest of time, we request the speakers to sort of keep the answer under 2 minutes so that we can proceed with the preset questions and then go on to the Slido for more interactive fun.
For sure.
All right. With that, let's jump into the next question. Since we're talking about personal branding and you guys have had such a serendipitous journey, in your perspective, Clement and Arunima, what is a personal brand and why do you think it's necessary?
I can
either of you can go first.
One sentence, and I promise it's one sentence. I think the perception someone whom you haven't ever had the opportunity to meet before has about you as a PM aspirant and or young professional, because that's the only brand that I have. I was a student, I'm a young professional. So the perception someone you've never met have about you as a product manager person, or person who solves problems and is a good aspirant.
Yeah, straight as a bullet.
And, you know, exactly that, like building on to, you know, Arunima's answer, you know, really a brand is simply a story, right? It's a story about you to your customer, right? And the thing is people need to have stories, right? Like you can't sell anything in the world without a story, because people are emotional, like people are social creatures. And so you can lay out all of the facts in the world, but if you don't have a story, it's just not going to sell, right? And the reason why brands are important, just in general, is because there is something of value that exists, and then there are people who need to get that value, but they don't know, you know, what to pick. There are so many different things out there. And so a brand really helps these people find the correct value that they need in their lives. And similarly, in terms of personal brand, we can consider all of ourselves as products. And we can consider that there are all of these different markets, all these different customers out there who need the things that we're offering, but they can't just take what we say, like, you know, they can't just, you know, crunch all the statistics, because that's too hard. And so they're really looking for a story, right? So the way that I think about it is a brand is a story that you use basically to, you know, help convince other people why they should be listening to you, why they should be reaching out to you, why they should be relying on you. I do want to call out, though, that there is one particular pitfall with brands that we should all be keeping in mind, especially as we dive into building a personal brand. And what I mean by that is we need to make sure that we're not over-optimizing for the brand as the end goal, right? A brand is simply a tool. It is one of the toolkits within your product management toolkit. And so rather than trying to maximize your reach or maximize the number of engagement that you have, you're really trying to deliver value, and brand is one way to help you deliver that value, right? So you know, I've personally fallen into this trap before. I know from personal experience, just in terms of all the articles I've written, all the speaker events I've done, there are times when I say like, oh my gosh, I really wish that, you know, more people came or whatever, but that's not the point. The point is that I'm trying to create value. I'm trying to share my product management knowledge with other people. And if I have a personal brand, right, like if people know the story of, oh, Clement is this non-traditional, non-technical PM that suddenly somehow got in, and because he didn't know what he was doing, he documented all of this stuff for us to learn. That's so much more compelling than if I just said, oh yeah, I have a blog, there are posts, right? Like there's something actually substantive there that you can really emotionally resonate with, so that when you read my work, you really, you know, do feel like, oh, he gets me, like he came through this challenge before, right? And so that brand is really important. But if you over-optimize for the brand, you forget to actually go create the true content that matters, the true value that matters in the world. So just be careful kind of as you embark on this journey to refine your personal brand, don't over-optimize on it. So that's just the one caution I'm going to put out there.
And I think to build on what Clement said for students as well, just a quick remark. It's not just, at least in my perception, personal branding is not just your social or online outreach. It's also how, just like he said, what skills do you have are you a problem solver, period. If you're the kind of problem solver someone reads about or knows or talks to you and understands that you have 2 followers on LinkedIn, but you're the kind of person who had an idea of a problem he needs to solve, created an ideation and actually executed impact, period. That's your personal brand. That's what we're trying to optimize on. It's not, at least to me, and Clement and I could be differing in that concept. I feel I didn't even have a LinkedIn account when I started embarking my personal brand. Like I didn't even know what LinkedIn is. My background is like super, like I knew nothing. So LinkedIn was nowhere in my journey. The only thing that I had is if I get 2 minutes or 5 minutes, 3 minutes or 5 minutes with someone, I'm going to talk about the problems I solved and the impact it created. The entire life journey in 2 minutes I'll be able to talk about, and that's my personal brand. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for that, Clement and Arunima. Yeah, so, you know, key points there is that personal brand is about like crafting your narrative, like the why of why you are. Maybe you're building your personal brand through writing blogs or publishing posts, but it's really about the why behind of what you're doing. and to really not just optimize and focus on the quantitative metrics, but more on the value that you bring and the impact that you have, regardless of the number of followers or readers that you have. At the end of the day, if you can change one person's life, if you can inspire, push them in their journey, you're creating an impact, and your personal brand is serving its purpose. Thanks for the heart, Arunima. Okay, so you've briefly touched on this question already, but if you could expound a little bit more, but keeping it concise. How have you both established your personal brand, and how has establishing your personal brand contributed to your PM careers? Whoever wants to start.
Clement, you can go first. We'll take turns. Who goes first?
Sure, no worries. So I'd say, in terms of my personal brand, it wasn't something that I really understood or knew about when I first got started, very similar to Arunima, right? Like at that time, I didn't really know how to use LinkedIn. I didn't really know what a brand was, but I really wanted to, I knew a couple of things about myself, which is I really wanted to be authentic, and I really just wanted to help other people, right? And so I think, in terms of that personal brand, it's kind of grown organically. And, over time, I've been able to find this, product market fit. I think in terms of a couple of things to keep in mind, when you are crafting a personal brand, like you want it to be authentic, like you want it to actually be an elevated version of yourself. You don't want it to be someone that you're not, right? And so, a couple of things that are very real about me. I'm really bad at lying. Like when I lie, I start laughing like a bunch. And so I can't play poker. Like that's a real fact. And so because of that, I just don't go telling lies. Like I will honestly tell people, I don't know this thing. I know I don't know this thing. Here's why I don't know it. And here's how I'm going to learn more about it, right? And so by doing so, people can rely on me to say okay, I know this stuff. I don't know this stuff. And that means that people can trust me, right? And in terms of how brands evolve over time, like they do. And so when I originally got started, I was very much in, my brand was very much, I'm going to tell it to you straight. I'm going to be a peer of yours, right? Like I am just another PM that you can reach out to. I think over time, as I've had the opportunity to, have more impact at scale, such as, writing a book or doing, speaker events, I've shifted from I'm your best friend to, hey, I'm going to help you, break through all of these obstacles that I ran through. I'm ahead of you, so I can go clear the path and make it easier for you to go penetrate, right? And so brands evolve, and that shouldn't be something that you're worried about. That's something that you should feel very comfortable about. But again, I do want to, tell it real, right? Brand is not always something that is going to reflect in your professional career. And so to be really explicit, in terms of my own promotions, I haven't been promoted a single time because of any article I wrote. I've never been reached out by a recruiter for, running PMHQ. All of it has been based on the basis of my professional work. And so my personal brand doesn't matter in terms of my professional abilities, but my personal brand is really helpful for me to be able to help others in the way that I want to help others. And so I wouldn't say that my personal brand was particularly helpful in my professional career. And again, I'm just going to tell you the statistics. In the last year, I had 200 recruiters reach out to me. And in every single one of these 200 recruiters' messages, not a single one mentioned Product Manager HQ or my articles, right? And so that goes to show that you can do all of this stuff, but it doesn't reflect on your professional journey as much. And so you need to be very thoughtful in terms of how do I want to balance my portfolios between my personal brand and my professional work. And so that is something for you to keep in mind, because you can't just assume that, oh, because I did this really, badass thing outside of work, that work is going to recognize me for it. It's likely not going to happen. And so you need to be really thoughtful about that in terms of how you want to strike that balance between personal impact outside of work and then work-related impact. So yeah, handing over to Arunima.
Awesome. That was really informative. And I'm learning so much from you, Clement, too. I think my journey of establishing my personal brand and how, it happened to be in a PM career is obviously more of when I was an aspirant, when I was a student. So for me, how I created my personal brand was some of the self introspection sessions that I usually keep on happening on what are my core values? What is Arunima, right? How do if I project myself in front of me and I'm someone new and I'm knowing Arunima, what would I think about myself? What are some core values? I know my core values. My core values are I'm honest. I definitely have an atypical background, mostly I was a small town girl in Delhi, which was a big city. I'm a Indian in the Silicon Valley. Like I have my background and I own my story, just like Clement says. I love my story. I love the adversities that I faced because that's what brought me here. So that's my core value, being proud of who I am, my story. And the third and fourth is something that people have called me a lot. People have defined me as Arunima is a hustler and Arunima is a problem solver and executor. That's one of the terms that my managers and interviewers, mostly managers, used for me. So those are my core values. That's how, as a student, I stopped for a second. A lot of times, like while you're burning out, you're doing so many things because you want to find a career, you want to make something out of yourself, and a student life can become really hectic. I remember sitting down and talking to myself, what are the 3-4 core values that Arunima should be defined with? And I figured out for myself. I said, I'll be honest, I have an atypical background, proud of my story, and I'm going to make people proud of their story. I'm going to hustle, I'm going to solve problems. Uh, and like that converted to everything that I do. I did a TEDx talk, and in that talk, I talked about exactly the same thing. I have 3 core values, right? I had 3 ways in which or everybody here and I created my story and my career and everything. I found SAP, right? Like SAP, S for support. What type of people would I need? Like I want to reach out and to Clement and get his advice on X specific thing, and I would be shameless to do that. And adaptability on whatever adaptability on whatever your story is, and then P, persisting and being very persistent about your goals and your career. So that's how my core values, then SAP model, and then Arunima figured out her personal brand and established it. But one difference that I would say would be in how your personal brand affects you as a student versus professional is that I personally feel, because I invested in being a community leader and helping people, because I had that story, all of the creating my story helped me get connection requests and all those offers from recruiters. I didn't get 200, like I didn't, because like I was a student, that there's just not as many opportunities, I'm guessing. But the 10 recruiters that connected with me, I think they were a lot more about my story than what I was studying at school. These are the only 2 things that a student has, right? I'm studying at school and I have a brand or story outside school. So I would say for an aspirant and a student, building your story and showcasing your story does get important. But as Clement says, it is not about the online presence, it's about the impact that you create. So that's the only differentiating point in my story of how personal brand helped me.
Thank you so much for that, Arunima and Clement. Now, since we only have around 15 minutes left, we'll jump into Slido. So for everyone who's not there yet, you can access it via slido.com, and our code is #PM branding. And I believe Darsh or David will also post the link in the chat. So I'm gonna quickly share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So do you want to kickstart the question, Sundaraya?
Yeah, sure. Let's start with the most popular one. What do you do to develop your pitch or story when it comes to personal branding? And how do you maximize identifying the key things that are important for a PM? And how do we stand out while building the personal brand?
Arunima, you want to take that?
Sure. I guess one word, prioritization, right? Like there are 4 or 5 things I'm passionate about, 4 or 5 things I'm doing. Maybe the 6th thing is one I have like 4.0 GPA as a student, as an aspirant, or XYZ things. But what are the 2 things, like, right? Knowing the person in front of you and what would they be looking for in your answer, or what would impress them out of all the things that you're doing. And then according to that, be prioritizing. what you're going to talk about. They're not going to remember more than 2 or maximum 3 things that you talked about. Then just focus on the 3 things and prioritize the 3 things that you're strongly going to talk about according to what the person would be impressed with. So those are my two pointers.
And I think that was just, honestly, straight fire, right? Like that is exactly the correct answer of, again, like we are all here because we are trying to solve a pain, right? Like the thing is, let's take a couple of steps back. Why does an employer create a job in the first place? They're creating a job not for you to take it, but they're creating a job because they cannot solve it with their current workforce. And so they have some pain. They have a pain that they can't solve. And so they're looking for the best product in the market to go solve that pain, right? And so when we talk about what are the key things you need to stand out in your resume? How do you get a PM interview? How do you develop your personal pitch, your story, etc.? It all begins by starting from the customer. Who are you trying to serve and what is their pain, right? Because when you begin from there, then instead of you having to act like a candidate where you're like, oh my gosh, I need to say all the exact right things so they look the same as everyone else, you become a solution. You become a thought partner in helping them overcome their pains, right? And so I actually did write this guide on, how to write a really strong resume. And in that guide, there's no template. Like there's no template at all because everyone is different. And so there shouldn't be a template. Like you need to go do the research of what am I good at? What does someone else need? And how do I bridge the gap between the two, right? And so like that is not just product management, but recruiting in general, right? And so the whole thing of when you treat yourself as a product, like you are your most impactful product, like you are product managing yourself. And so if you can demonstrate that you've figured out how to product manage yourself, people are way more likely to take chances on you because they already know that you know how to do product management, right? So again, start from the pain. Who are you trying to go after and what do they actually care about? And then go and demonstrate that you will be able to meet those needs. And again, I cannot emphasize Arunima's point enough. Please, please, please prioritize. Do not give us a bunch of information, right? And so what I'd like to say is in terms of, what people like to think in terms of resumes or interviews or whatever is, oh, it's the sum of things that I say. And what I found is it's not the sum, it's the average. And so the more things you say, the less likely that your average, perceived competence is going to go up because the more stuff you say, the more likely it is towards the bottom of your list of accomplishments. And so that dilutes your value. And so when you keep yourself to only saying, these are the top 2 things that I'm really strong at, and you keep the rest out, your average is way higher than if you try to talk about all the 50 other things that you did, right? And I think I made this mistake as a student a ton. Like I tried to mess with the margins of my resume. I tried to like dump a bunch of information on people, send these really long intro emails. They're not helpful, right? Like people have limited time. And so you need to really focus on what is the average that I'm communicating across. And so you really need to focus on what are the true differentiators that you're bringing to the table to go solve their specific pain, right? Again, employers are customers. They have pains. And so you need to do the research to understand what is their pain so that you can figure out how to create product market fit between you and them. You need to customize, you need to personalize, you need to prioritize, right? So again, 1,000 times, everything what Arunima said, completely on the dot.
Thank you for that. Yeah, so it's really about how can you apply product management principles even in your job search process, right?
Exactly.
And if you can,
then product. Sorry, go ahead. I should.
Yeah, no. Did you want to add anything, Arunima?
No, I just love how he described it. It was just so perfect. Like you are a product, you know your customer, which is whoever is in front of your recruiter, someone you're trying to network with, whoever it is, you know that person, your customer, and then you prioritize according to that. So perfect answer.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move on to the next one. So we've heard a lot about developing your story, crafting your narrative, and I think Arunima touched on, introspection. But if you could elaborate more, what do you do to develop your pitch or your story when it comes to personal branding? What are some tactics so that people can extract what their story is and how can they craft this narrative?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and take the first shot and I hand it over to Arunima. And so again, kind of exactly using that same framework that we talked about, all things in the world are product market fit, right? You're a product, there are markets, you need to figure out how you fit. And so in ways of how do you develop your pitch or your story, first is, really thinking about who am I? What do I stand for? What do I want? What do I care about, right? And so you really need to first start from yourself. And then you can then start thinking about, okay, well, who are the types of people or who are the types of organizations that I want to serve, and how do I tell that story, that bridge between me and them? And then that is the brand, right? Like the story is the brand, that is your tool. And there are a couple of good things, right? I think a lot of times people kind of assume that like, oh, because I'm an introvert, you know, I'm not going to be as strong as personal branding. And that's not true, because introverts actually spend a lot of time in reflecting on, you know, themselves, and also in reflecting on people's reactions to them. And that's actually incredibly important when you're trying to flesh out a personal brand. And so, you know, and again, you know, as an extrovert, of course, you know, that's also really great because you have all these iteration cycles. You're talking to all these different people to go learn about what resonates and what doesn't. And so what I would say is, again, think about yourself, go figure out what the market needs, craft a hypothetical story, right? And then go test it, right? So it's really helpful when you're talking one-on-one with, let's say, a stranger and you're giving career advice, or, you know, you're trying to, you know, meet someone for the first time. If you do this enough times and you keep iterating off of these individual interactions, you'll start to find the personal brand that actually sticks, right? And so, you know, I honestly did not know my personal brand until I completed about, let's say, 50 one-on-one calls with aspiring PM candidates, because I didn't know what to tell them. Like, I didn't know how to show that I was going to be able to help them in the way that they needed. I didn't know who I was, right? And so when you take on all of these iterative cycles, you will naturally be able to refine a story that really makes sense for both you and for your listener, right? And so again, kind of, I would say it's all product management. It's all meta product management of who are you, what's the market, what's the fit, and then go try and iterate. Like, just go out, keep using it, keep using it. You're going to fail. It's going to suck. It's not going to stick, and that's okay. Like, you can take each of these failed iterations, each of these mistakes, and learn from it and keep recrafting your pitch, right? Like, it doesn't mean that your pitch isn't right. It just means that it needs more refinement, or it means that you need to go look for a different market that will be more receptive to your pitch. So those are my thoughts in terms of, you know, developing a personal brand.
Awesome. That was
Thank
really
you.
elaborate. I have a quick answer to this because I think when I was preparing as an aspirant and even as a young professional trying to network within my team and company in remote areas, I have this mental template that I always use, and I call it 3-point rule. And essentially, it's nothing but your answer to tell me about yourself. And every one of us have answered that question in every single one of our interviews, right? And my 3-point rule is the first section of my pitch is quick backstory about myself. And that backstory, honestly, a lot of times students make a mistake that my backstory is I am an alum of this university, or I'm studying at this university, or, you know, the university or company that you're from. I feel that one section could be just I'm a founder of Product Buds, or that one thing that you want to introduce yourself as. The second part is what are the 3 major projects or impact initiatives or anything that you want, that you've worked on, that you want them to talk about, that you want to showcase in front of them. So the second section is projects or products or jobs or whatever it is, right? Right now, whatever products I'm working at Salesforce, if I'm networking with a senior director or VP at Salesforce, right? So the second is projects. Talk about 3 projects that you're in, that you worked on, and by the way, not what you did, but why you did it. The problem statement. So 3 problem statements to why you built that project. And the third section is what are some statistical impacts that you created. There were X people. These are the number of meetups. Whatever those metrics are, that shows a lot about how wholesome your pitch can be. You introduced yourself, you talked about 3 projects or 3 things the problems that you wanted to solve and you solved, and then you talked about 3 impacts that you had. And those 3 things could be projects, could be anything that you want as a student. It could be class projects, it could be anything. But this is the 3-point model that has really helped me when I went on 1 minute, 2 minute, sometimes literally like in a conference, getting 1-2 minute one-on-one with someone like Clement was a dream come true for an undergrad Arunima. And that's what I did. 1 minute pitch on these 3 things. And let's see if Clement is able to understand that, he would interact back, and then I'll be able to have a conversation with them. So that's what I did.
Thank you, both Clement and Arunima. I guess it's all about finding the market fit for the product that is us. So along the same lines, as we can see on the screen, someone's talking about transitioning into a PM role from one role. It could either be as a student or a different professional job that they're currently doing, but transitioning into a more product-specific role. So how in your opinion, would rebranding work? Rebranding yourself. Do you have to completely alter the way you tell your story? How do you sell to that specific new market?
Yeah, so I can take a first shot at this one, just because I've had to make that transition myself as a non-PM
Right.
into being a PM as a professional. I also have a deck, and so if people want to ping me later, I can also share the deck of how to change careers into product management afterwards. So someone please remind me to do that. But basically, in terms of that story, right? Again, when we go all the way back down to what is the pain that's trying to be solved, you really need to start thinking about, okay, what is it that the employer needs to get done? And if you can tell a really compelling story that you are a better solution to the pain than someone else is, then they will select you rather than someone else. And so the whole thing about people like to, sorry, taking a step back. Many people are worried about minimum qualifications, right? Or many people are worried about like, oh, I have to do whatever, and then I'm not qualified and they won't take me. And that's not true, because the thing is, the entire point of qualifications is they're basically asks from a customer of, oh, I want you to do this thing, but they're not the actual true pain. Like when you see a lot of these, minimum job requirements, they're almost like, when a customer's asking you for a feature request, like they say, I want you to build a button in this place. And it's like, why? Like, why do you need that button? They're like, what is what you're trying to really get to? And if you can show that you can solve the problem without building the button, then they'll take your solution, right? And so the whole thing is like, if you know what their root pain is, you can jump past all the minimum qualifications, right? Like one of the things I was saying in Zoom is at Blend, people were looking for, a product manager who had 7 years of experience. And at that time, I only had 1.5 years. And so they really shouldn't have been talking to me. But the reason why people at Blend said we need 7 years of product management experience is because they had a faulty assumption. They assumed that, hey, if we find someone who's really senior, they will likely have learned how to launch totally new products from scratch. But as you heard from my career journey, I've been launching whole new products from scratch ever since I got started as a product manager. And so I had way more experience doing the one specific thing that they needed someone to do than the PM with 7 years of experience. And that's why they wanted me to proceed with the interview, because they said, you know the problem a lot better than everyone else does because you've been doing this for so long. And I didn't fit their job description. Similarly, at Blend, we've hired non-PMs to become PMs because they were really, really good at the one thing that we needed them to do, and it wasn't product management, right? Like we needed someone to be able to kick off a new business from scratch in a very specific vertical. And that person had run an entire, division off of just that one vertical, and they weren't a PM, and we needed that expertise. And so we brought them in, right? So the whole thing around, how do I make a pivot is rather than worrying about, do I fit their stated qualifications? You need to go understand what is the actual deep pain that caused them to think that you need to have these qualifications, and then demonstrate that what you have is better than whatever qualifications they thought you needed, right? So that's part one. Part two is, to be really honest, there is this bad, pattern matching within Silicon Valley and within many other companies of, hey, we don't want to hire a PM unless they were a PM before, right? Like recruiters are risk averse, and like that makes sense because a good PM can really make a company grow really fast. A bad PM could bankrupt the company, right? And so it makes sense for them to be risk averse, right? And so if that's the case, then if it means that you can't directly move as an analyst from company A into a product manager at company B, you've got two options. One, you move into company B as whatever, and then in company B, you demonstrate that you can become a product manager at company B. Or two, you take your current role at company A, you become a product manager at company A, and then you move into being a product manager at company B, right? And so I actually took that second path. I went from an analyst at Movoto into a product manager at Movoto, and then I became a product manager at Blend, right? I could have, if I said, I'm really interested in what Blend is doing, right? Like I could have jumped over to Blend first as XYZ, and then convinced Blend that like, I'm gonna be a really great product manager, right? And so it really depends on your situation of which of these two pivots make more sense for you in terms of jump to your targeted company and then pivot into product, or pivot into product and then jump into your targeted company. That really depends on you in terms of, do you care more about the company or do you care more about the title of PM and the responsibilities of PM, right? So that's really up to you. But that's kind of how I think about the whole pivot. And again, I realize that was a very long answer. I've done an entire presentation on it. It is not an easy topic. So feel free to reach back out if you have additional questions. More than happy to share more thoughts there.
So a quick answer for from a student perspective. If you've done a lot of SWE internships and you want to run into a product manager internship or or job. This summer I've gotten an opportunity to work with 3 software engineering, like a lot of interns and one product manager intern too. And my honest opinion or advice is, while you were doing all the internship projects at your SWE internships, was there a point when you really, really cared about your customer? And if there wasn't, can you now look back and create something valuable? A presentation, it could be as simple as a competitive analysis deck, or it could be when you were building that software engineering, I don't know, tool, did you talk to all the stakeholders who'd be building that, who'd be using your project, your software engineering project, right? So there are so many ways in which, even though you've had your software engineering internships, you can show that you were portraying or practicing product management skills. So that's one thing. Whatever you've done already, your software engineering internships, the poster has done software engineering internships, that's great. So how can you pivot and pitch those software engineering internships also as PM skills that you represent, that you presented. And the second thing is, work with friends, like, APMC is launching, like, a lot of initiatives that you take are also showing, should also be showing your product management skill. That's a very good way for young people, especially aspirants, and go to product build, start a project, those kind of initiatives, and building value from ideation to execution, as I said, is all that a PM does. So if you're able to show those impactful initiatives or projects, you'll be good to go for PM roles.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for the wonderful answers to not just this, but all the other questions we received from the audience and the preset questions we had. They were very, very informative. I hope the audience made notes, and if not, this session's recorded, so you can go back and watch it. I know I'm going to do it. So thank you for taking time out of your day, both Arunima and Clement. It was a pleasure interacting with you and asking the questions that were burning inside all of us. I really wish we had more time for the rest of the questions from the audience, but there's always another session we can attend. But thank you so much.
Yeah, if you love that, use the clap reaction or the thumbs up, and thank our speakers for joining us today and, spending their Sunday with us. Just, quick reminders. I know taking notes, so post it on LinkedIn, tag our speakers, share what you have learned to your connections on LinkedIn. That's one way in how you can materialize and show that you're working on your personal brand, and you can start building your personal brand from there. And also, we will be sending a follow-up email with a recording of this session along with Clement's slide deck. So yeah, we'll have that all ready for you, and we'll see you again in our next event.
One quick pointer. I know that there were some questions with @Arunima about Salesforce. About if you have any questions, the best way, as Henrika said, would be to create a post and tag me. I'm very bad at personal messages inbox at LinkedIn, but connect with APMC or Product Buds. If you're a part of the community, send me a Slack message or post, and I'll definitely tag me, and then definitely want to get back to all of you. Join us, and let's get together on this journey of creating personal branding and helping each other grow.
Clement, do you want to give last few words on how people may be able to reach you?
Yeah, for sure. So I am a little bit more responsive on LinkedIn than I am over email, and I'm a little bit more responsive over Slack than I am on LinkedIn. So, that's my general preference set. So in terms of, asking questions, again, please feel free to reach out over LinkedIn or Slack if you're within the Product Buds community. And in terms of, learning more, one of the things I'm going to go ahead and call out, and I know that this is going to sound weird, is asking for time with me in terms of a call is actually not going to be to your benefit, because there's already a lot of stuff that I've already covered outside of a call, and that will actually be a lot more helpful to you. And so feel free to reach out. I might redirect you to books, or I might redirect you to written articles that are much more eloquent than I might ever be on a call. So just definitely, please do not feel offended about that. I just really want to make sure that you have something that you can always refer back to, even after our initial interaction, right? So I'm all about sending over resources so that you can always lean on them more. So yeah, so again, don't hesitate to reach out. I don't bite. So I'm more than happy to help all of you. Again, you're all doing fantastic in getting on this call and spending and investing this Sunday in learning more about how you can drive an impact by growing your brand. So thank you all for joining. Really, really thank you.
Thanks so much, Clement. So much to learn for me too, from him, how to manage all these, resources and knowledge. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on the panel with you.
Thank you, Arunima and Clement, and thank you everyone, APMC and PB members, for tuning in. We'll see you in our next event.
Woo-hoo.
Thanks, everyone. Have the great rest of the Sunday and weekend.